Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babble podcast. As always, I am Julian Mush. I am joined by Jeremy Kozier.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about the latest in film and TV news here today. We're going to go a little bit
of what we can remember.
Well, fortunately, I grab screenshots of the news when I'm scrolling Twitter, between doom scrolling, of course. I switch back and forth between watching the world fall apart and like getting entertainment news. So I save those and then I scroll through those back to get the notes, a little bit of behind the scenes information for you. But we're gonna go a little bit less structured in the sense that I hadn't had a chance to write down all the notes, but we'll go through the stories and we'll kind of pick them as they go. There's a couple that are top of mind. There's a few things that I've watched that I kind of want to talk about. I saw the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, Jeremy, and gotta say, pretty great.
That's good.
Yeah, very good. And like we were just talking about music before we started recording, and one of the coolest things about the new TMNT movie is its soundtrack. So if you go on Spotify right now and you find the TMNT Mutant Mayhem mixtape, which is I think curated by Seth Rogen, and it's like all 80s, 90s hip hop stuff. It's like very good. It's a very solid playlist. So I've been listening to that like nonstop. We listened to it all this weekend when we were cleaning up the apartment and stuff. It's great. But anyway, we'll save a little bit of that for later. I want to talk about TMNT and kind of where that sits and kind of how it's performing, which is not as great as it should be probably. As always, there's more DC news because we live in some sort of time loop situation, so we got to address some of that. And then there's a few other bits and pieces. I mean, ultimately, the entertainment industry is kind of collapsing around us, or at least the movie industry is, and television industry is, because there's no one's working. So, or at least the without the writers and the actors, there's not really work. So lots of delays, lots of other things that we can kind of touch on. But I am wearing my Barbenheimer shirt, Jeremy, which if you're watching live, you can see. We actually talked about this in our TOB Film Club episode. So we recorded our film club for Mission Impossible 2 at the end of last month. And we talked about kind of my trip down to Regina to see Oppenheimer in 70mm IMAX and seeing Barbie. And, you know, we can maybe talk a little bit about that. I don't know if you had a chance to watch either of them yet, Jeremy, but I'll tell you what.
I've not.
Both are great. Barbie I've now seen twice. We went to go see it again because the first time we saw it was in this kind of really crappy theater in Regina. And we rolled up on Friday night and we got there just in time to catch the last showing that night. And it was just it was one of those theaters, Jeremy, where like they don't have stadium seating. It's kind of like flat row of seats and then the screen's really high up. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of like the old Town 8 cinema.
Yeah.
How it was like styled like that, so it was not great. But we went to go see it again in a regular kind of more modern Cineplex while we were here, and it's still very funny. Absolutely it's making tons and tons of money, which is not surprising considering the movie. But again, we can, if we have time at the end of the show, we can get into that a little bit more.
It's not making money?
No, it is making tons of. Well, yeah. TMNT is not making as much money as it should, and Barbie is making all the money. Yeah,
it's Warner Brothers' most successful movie, I think, isn't it?
Like of all time, or this year?
I don't know. It dethroned The Dark Knight in some record.
Yeah, the thing is, the box office records are weird because it reminds me of like when you're watching like football and they'll give you some sort of like very random stat. Like it'd be like, this is the first time in 78 years that someone's got 3 interceptions on 4 Tuesdays in a row.
Yeah,
you know
but
what
at the
I
end
mean?
of the day, for this, it's essentially just like the money talks. Like that's what it's ultimately diluted to. What cash is king.
Yeah. So right now, the number one grossing movie this year is Super Mario Bros. The Super Mario Brothers movie, and then I think I'm pretty sure it's Barbie after that.
Then Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
but
the Oppenheimer's
awesome
doing pretty well.
It was super good.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like that one's one of the highest grossing R-rated movies of all time. I think it's in the top 10 now.
Lowish. It's like pretty low, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, I don't know how low it is considering it had to be printed on 70 millimeter IMAX film, and it's a
I think it's under 200 million.
I don't know if you consider under 200 million. If it's between 150 and 200 million dollar budget, that's
Barbie's
not a
for sure north of 200, I'd imagine.
Right, hold on. I'm sure we can find that out. Oppenheimer, which is sitting at a 2023 gross of $270 million right now. I'm looking at the numbers. It's been suggested to me that Box Office Mojo is not the best website, but instead the numbers, the-numbers.com is the best place to go. Production budget, Jeremy, you're way off.
I was.
$100 million for
I said
the
150.
budget. Well, I mean, I guess you said originally you're like less than 200, so technically you're right.
Yeah.
But
low.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
low.
That is low. That is low. It is low, and they're making.
Like
and they've obviously made their money way back, right? 270 million domestic, 393 international. Jimmy, can you answer this question for me? Is Canada considered domestic box office or international box office?
I'd have to think international.
I want to say it's domestic,
but maybe it is because it's so small compared to.
We're like basically
states.
next door.
We're just like a tacked on state, basically.
So, according to Wikipedia, the box office, so take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But for films released in North America, box office figures are usually divided between domestic, meaning the United States, and Canada, and forward, which includes all the other countries. So we get to be included in domestic box office receipts. So there you go. Anyway, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Oppenheimer's getting obviously a lot of buzz. Most of it is about. I feel like a lot of people talking about like the IMAX of it all. But there's I went down a whole rabbit hole of watching videos about atomic weapons and like the physics of it and why it matters and all these things, and it's fascinating stuff. So, and I was like leading up to the movie, so I was like gripped the whole way. I listened to someone talk about it today, and they were basically saying that they thought it was an hour too long, and I just couldn't disagree more about that. I mean, I understand that it's a biopic and it's like not.
Well, we thought the same thing for the Batman, and then we realized that we put that movie on if we wanted to nap.
Yeah, Jimmy, I know you keep bringing that up. You really cooled on that movie over time. But again, that movie's still badass in my opinion, and it certainly looks awesome. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it's slower and it is quieter, so it is easy to fall asleep at. Because it's happened to me, which doesn't happen very often, which is an indictment of it. But I still love that movie, so just let's not get too crazy, throwing it under the bus. I know there's been a lot of stuff online lately about like getting Affleck back to do his solo movie, but I feel like that ship sailed like 3 years ago, so I don't really understand that.
We're in a time loop.
It does feel like that. It really does feel like that. Honestly, I looked at all these different records and milestones that they have listed for Oppenheimer. So biggest Fourth Tuesday, yada yada yada. This is all lame. I just want to see if there's the R-rated movie one. Top R-rated weekend domestics. It's 12th at 82 million. That's not what I want. Best biggest First Friday. It's 96th there. Never number one domestic. Number two. I don't know. I guess the most money, but not at number one because it premiered against Barbie. Anyway, it's interesting. But let's get into some of the news here. So let's start with the first story in reverse chronological order, which is that the House of Dragon season 2 has been condensed from 10 episodes to 8 episodes. Did you watch the first season, Jeremy? House of Dragon?
No.
Well, you're missing out because it was actually very, very good. It was return to form for Game of Thrones, in my opinion. It did some weird stuff with like time and like time jumps because it covers something like 50 years of time frame, but very good. Anyway, so they're saying they're reducing it from 10 to 8. I'm not a big fan of the like shorter and shorter seasons,
less
like,
content.
Yeah, because what else am I going to do with my time? But I mean,
so selfishly.
No, yeah, I get listen, I understand the balance, but someone was brought this up the other day on I don't remember which podcast I was listening to or what article I was reading or tweet I was reading or whatever. But and no, I'm not calling it X. I'm gonna keep calling it Twitter. I can't do it, Jeremy. I can't. Anyway, so I was listening, reading something, and they were saying that like, so the second season of Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which was a epic second season, just like absolutely crushed it. If anyone's looking for like classic Star Trek Mission of the Week style TV, can't really go wrong with Strange New Worlds. Anton, is that his name? Mount. As Captain Pike is absolutely phenomenal. The whole cast is great. They nailed the Star Trek tone. But they were saying that they're planning because it's a prequel to the original series. They were planning to do up to a certain a timeline period or however many years of production before they ended it to like catch up to the original series. And that would put it at 10 episodes a season. It would put it at like 50 episodes all time, something like that, give or take. But if you compare that to 5 seasons of like Next Generation, which had 22 episode seasons at an hour each, it's like it barely any. It doesn't even scratch the number of minutes we're talking of pure Star Trek content. So we kind of are like, yes, we're spoiled by content in the sense, but at the other hand, seasons are getting shorter and shorter, so everything's kind of condensing to the mean. Movies are getting longer, and TV shows are getting shorter. Eventually, you won't be able to tell the difference, I assume. Do you prefer a longer season or a shorter season? Does it depend on the show?
I just don't. I don't think I like TV really. I just don't. It doesn't.
That doesn't make any. You don't. That Jeremy. That doesn't make any sense.
What shows am I watching? What show? Like, tell me.
I don't know, but it doesn't make. What is it about
watching,
TV that you don't like? I guess
I'd rather just pop in a movie and just get into that for.
Is it the commitment? So. Like, is it the okay? You got to be here next week, kind of thing.
It's just the craft too. It's just like this nice. Like, I'd rather just see what James Cameron was doing with the Terminator. Like right now, I want to just like I popped that in. I found a Blu-ray of that one and I popped that one in and watched some of that. Like,
so you're just in a different mode where you're just kind of you're looking backwards, not forwards.
Well, I don't think backwards is the right term.
Well, backwards in time, you're looking at classics.
I'm just looking at a director and his movie, basically. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You can. It's in a time slot.
I had this debate yesterday with a few friends. I think it's widely regarded that T2 is better than T1. I have a friend of mine who is staunch about the fact that the first Terminator is a better movie. I strongly disagree. Do you have a stance on that?
Yeah, like it doesn't offend me. I mean, the first one is groundbreaking. It is just world building at its finest at that time. I mean, and then it was more of a horror movie, like Chucky, but without cheese, essentially. Like, you know what I mean? Like a crazy horror, violent, murderous impending doom feeling with time travel. It's very like because the second movie it just does the role reversal with all the characters, which is such a crazy twist. Which I won't get into specific because I don't want to ruin that for people who haven't seen it.
Well,
but to see those established roles,
it's been so long.
Established characters and their motivations, initially broke through in the first one with Kyle Reese going back in time to protect Sarah, and Arnold's Terminator, who was with part of the War of the Machines.
It's like one of the only villains he's ever played, right? He doesn't play a lot of villains. That was one of the few. Yeah.
So that it was just insane at the time, and I'm watching it trying to get through that lens as well. But like, no matter what, the effects and the blockbuster like mentality around T2 is just peak.
Right.
There's no it's peak. That's it. Like there's no
it
beyond.
doesn't get better. Well, the movies certainly didn't get better after that. I'll tell you, the
Right.
Terminator movies.
Yeah, like I have that on 4K, a couple Blu-rays of it, and a DVD. Like I'll always hang on to all formats
every
of that
every
movie.
disc-based format you can
Yeah.
find. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, and I know you've kind of restarted your physical media collection process probably at the right time because streaming is collapsing around us at a record
Yeah,
pace.
streaming just sucks. Like you go throw in something and it's just like blurry for a little bit if your internet isn't the greatest or there's something going on with whatever. Like Christopher Nolan had that. He was on an episode of that whatever that museum is with all those movies on the shelves, like walls and walls of DVDs and Blu-rays. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's like a
Is this on
YouTube.
YouTube? I don't know.
Yeah, so they had Killian and Nolan there, and then they're just browsing movies, and then just pulling one off the shelf and then talking about it, and you learn all these crazy new things through Christopher Nolan's perspective and what has stuck with him through some of those viewings of those movies when he was younger, and then how he translated that to when he started making movies. Like he talks about uh, the Star Wars Godfather. What's his name?
George Lucas.
George Lucas. Yeah, sorry. And just like how that's what he's basically trying to do is like those epics of those days, in like a grounded way.
I don't know if we could. I mean, I appreciate that concept. I just don't know if it's truly possible. I mean, Oppenheimer is impressive for its performance as an R-rated biopic, but it's not Star Wars. You know what I mean?
No, but
So
that's just one movie. I'm talking about like his career, like all of his movies, the Dark
sure,
Knight trilogy, Inception. It's just sci-fi at its
he has said that he wants to
greatest.
do a James Bond movie. He would be open to doing that. I heard someone say that they didn't want him to do it because they already got an idea of what it would be like from Inception, but I think that's bullshit. If you could give a James Bond movie to Christopher Nolan, I think you do it at a like at
Yeah,
you don't
it's very likely that it could happen now, since
and
he
timing works out.
openly
They
invited
yeah
and said he would do it.
yeah. I mean, right now I don't think Barbara Broccoli, my favorite producer name of all time, had obviously of heir to the broccoli fortune, inventor of the broccoli. Um, I don't think they've figured out their plans for the next phase of James Bond. Right, it's kind of on pause until they don't have an actor. Idris Elba kind of turned it down after the whole race thing.
Well, everything's just collapsing, anyways.
Well, it turns out maybe
Lucasfilm closed 2 VFX studios, I think, that they've had for
yes for a long
over
time.
a decade.
Yeah, people thought that was going to mean that's the end of like animation at Lucasfilm. It's not. I think that's overblown. At least that's what.
No, they're going to be making less
Yeah.
content.
Yeah, less content is probably the reality, but not. And it's so wild, Jeremy, because right, we have so many more avenues to watch the stuff. Right, Ahsoka premieres, right away next week, right, and a week from now. And by the way, we will be back to cover that. Rachel will be back from her leave of absence for good reason. The baby's now stable enough that she can take an hour or two once a week to record a podcast. So that's a welcome return. She's excited about it. So we are doing Ahsoka coverage, but Bob Iger admitted that they said, "Oh no, we obviously were pumping out too much." But it's all bullshit because they did that because they wanted to get subscribers to their streaming service, and now they're cutting content and raising prices. So that doesn't really seem like a sustainable model to me either, to be honest. You're gonna bleed users over a long time if the best you can do is one Star Wars show a year and one Marvel show a year on Disney Plus, and the odd kids stuff. And maybe Disney Plus is the exception because it has that kid stuff to keep people subscribed. But the other streamers have said the same thing. So it's another example of Hollywood executives having no fucking idea what they're doing. It's like, it is so wild how much money these people lose. I know we talk about this every time we're on this podcast, but it is amazing how much money these people lose for these companies and are still able to keep their jobs. And not only that, get paid bonuses in the millions of dollars a year range. So this late stage capitalism thing turns out not working really well, because it's not just
late stage.
I don't know, it's like, that's the buzz term, but this idea that like we've reached the point of in the kind of the capitalism curve where
People
things start to
too much.
Well, we start eating our own young a little bit more than we were already, because that kind of is already that's kind of the process anyway. But it becomes
there's like
more
a
unstable.
Union vote coming soon for Disney, I think.
Which union? Like,
I don't know. I just heard. I think it's like a VFX like union.
There's I've seen a couple of those VFX studios saying they're going to attempt to unionize.
Yeah, I think there's a vote or something of note I saw.
Well, I'm obviously, we all support unionized work. Jeremy, you're not unionized, right? You're
no.
Yeah. Neither am I. I've never actually been a part of a union, but I will tell you
there was a vote. There was actually, it was being implemented. There was a vote.
Did they? And it didn't pass?
It didn't pass, no.
Interesting. Was there any attempt by your organization to try to like stamp it out? Because that's like union busting is a very...
The operations manager was literally like, he lost his job. Like, there was a huge court battle.
That is so crazy.
Undercover videos and testimonies.
Doing...
basically just did everything you're not supposed to do while a union vote is being taken place.
That is so crazy.
Like, he literally would bring people and close the door and like talk to them about it and like get people to find out who's a no vote, who's a yes vote.
That is people, so wild.
Literally paired people up based on race to like get the older person to like sway the younger, newer.
Well, it sure sounds like he deserved to lose his job.
Yeah, but then his boss basically said they just decided to part ways. Like, they didn't actually go through. They didn't tell the truth on how it happened, and he probably got a major severance being with the company for. Yeah.
Well, because that guy wasn't operating on his own. The rest of the owners didn't want them to you guys to unionize. So
yeah,
I mean, this is what I mean. I mean, like, specifically the entertainment industry is in crisis, but there's so many things that are in crisis, right? You know, we're dealing with global warming, and we got a housing crisis here in North America. Mostly, it's exasperated in Canada, but North America in general. You know, the list just keeps going on and on and on about all, like, the price of gas is through the roof. Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, we support unions, but, and like specifically here, in our backyard in Winnipeg, the liquor workers are on strike because they're unionized, and all they're asking for,
bring through the beers and the bottles.
Yes, but they are government employees.
Yeah, I know.
They're unionized. And they're saying that they want whatever 3.5% annual pay increases, which sounds like a lot, but until you consider that inflation's like 8%.
They just announced that like 3.3% hike of something.
Well, they said their argument, the union's argument was that the government passed their own pay raises at 3.3% a year. So they're saying, well, if the government can do that, then they should be able to do the same for us. And that's
Canada's annual inflation rate jumped to 3.3% in July.
Right.
To higher gas prices.
So, yeah. So, like, so this idea that, like, oh, no, we can't afford to pay you an extra 1.3% a year that you want. Instead, we're going to lock you out and, potentially risk your ability to put food on your table. And instead, and this is the same kind of stuff we hear from the movie executives. Oh, we can't afford to pay the writers, right? We can't afford to pay the writers because if we start that, then we'll go under. And it's all bullshit. Like, the money's there, they just used it. They gave it to themselves, it goes to the investors in some way, right? The system is not. Listen, this is not a communist podcast. I'm not endorsing communism, but I am endorsing socialism as a more equitable way of sharing resources. And it's wild to me that all this stuff is happening at the same time, And we as individual people who are facing the consequences of this, by the way, of not being able to watch the stuff we want, or if you're working in these industries, not being able to work, or not being able to afford to live, or or buy a house, all these things, you have really no control over it. But we can sit here and bitch about it though, and I'm happy.
Isn't like
I am happy to do that.
Microsoft trying to acquire like Blizzard Entertainment or something like that?
Yeah,
like
they
Call
bought
of Duty, Activision.
They bought Call of Duty Activision for what, like several $billions, right? And that is so
like
much
60
money.
billion or something.
You can't even 70 billion, I thought.
Or I don't know. And then Elon Musk bought Twitter for 40 billion. Or
40
something
billion.
like
That he overpaid apparently.
It doesn't
yeah.
make sense, man.
It does make sense. It doesn't make sense. There's all this money to go around, but we can't solve simple problems like housing affordability or gas prices or all these things that regular people have. It's crazy. And again, that's not what this podcast is about. But when we're talking about an industry in crisis like the entertainment industry, it sure feels like it has a lot of parallels to what we're dealing with here. Oppenheimer is a movie that deals with the transition from the pre-atomic age to the atomic age and how you handle that. What does that mean to live in a world? And this is one of the most fascinating things, Jeremy, about that movie, which is that this all happened long before we were born, right? The atomic bomb was invented long before we were born, but we have always lived, ever since the day we were born, in a world where atomic weapons could destroy us all at any given moment. Which doesn't sound like, it's like, well, of course, it's always been that way, but it wasn't always that way, and it has to affect people to know that could happen. Like maybe we put it in the back of our brains and we don't really think about it, and unless you hear about the war in Ukraine or what have you.
Of course,
but
we think about it. We have reality TV shows, and it's
but
not,
why
would we think we're invincible until you're one of the few that suffer that I don't know.
I mean, I'm just saying it's interesting because we're going through another change, right? We're going into this like new industrial revolution, this world of trying to of this AI stuff, and it's like, what does this all mean? Our life in 10 years from now could be entirely different from what it is today because, or then you also heard about the stuff about fusion.
Doesn't it make you just want to go watch iRobot with Will Smith?
I actually like that movie. I watched it a lot when I was young. So yeah, technically, isn't Shia LaBeouf in that movie too?
Minority Report. Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, he actually is. I think.
Yeah, he's
like on the ground level.
Yeah, he's just like a regular. Yeah, he has a small role in that movie.
Like
it makes me
whenever the machines go rogue and the red light comes on.
Yes, it's convenient that they have a big red light to know that they're evil. Yeah. I don't know. It just feels like I'm wearing a shirt with an atomic bomb on it, so it's like at this point we have made light of it enough. But and then there's the whole 9/11 thing. We live in a post 9/11 world, which is like I think I saw a tweet saying something like, or Kara maybe showed it to me. She's like, basically, our generation was in middle school and watched hundreds of people die live on TV, and then things basically never got better from there. I was like, when you put it like that, it does sound pretty bad. Anyway, that's pretty depressing. Quick, Jeremy, think of something exciting to talk about. Ugh. That's fun. How about this? An animated Kingdom Come movie, Kingdom Come, the DC property, was discussed, but due to quote changing regimes, we couldn't move forward to go with anything.
All
like
these
that.
animated movies suck as of late.
I haven't loved them. It's true. I haven't loved them.
You haven't even mentioned it.
Which one's that one?
I think it's called Justice League War World.
No, really?
Yep.
How did I miss that? I want to watch it
now. They're just like good for 10 minutes, and then they just get so boring.
Oh yeah, July 25th from Justice League War World, and then before that was Batman the Doom that came to Gotham.
Yeah, I own both. I haven't even watched them. I think I tried to watch the Batman one. That was kind of cool.
That's like the sequel to the. Is it a sequel?
No, it's not. I think they're all in the same universe or something.
Okay.
Of multiverses because it's the same art style. Like even on the spines, it's like there's images that like match up if you keep buying.
Yeah, but that doesn't make. I mean, this is the same multiverses because I'm saying this is like this is still the.
It's not like they're canon to each other, but they are because it's like a multiverse.
Right, steampunk Batman story, the Doom that came to Gotham. The Legion of Superheroes that came out in February 2023. So there's 3 this year that I haven't seen.
They're not. They're just not. They're not making any noise anymore.
Batman and Superman: Battle of the Super Sons. That's in 2022.
Like that's so lame.
So okay, here's what
like
according
these animated movies were geared towards adults. Not
they
saying
were.
that you can not like the what was it Superman Batman Battle of the Super Sons, but
That's right, Battle of the Super Sons. That's right.
you know what I mean. But like I want Gotham by Gaslight. Like I want stories like
Right.
that. You know what I mean? Like come on.
Well,
Maybe Legion
you
of Superheroes. I haven't even heard of that one. I think I own that one actually, but
okay? So
I haven't
here's
heard
what
anything about
it is. So Jeremy, the Doom that came to Gotham is a standalone film.
Yes. Yeah.
But
No, I was digging that one. I watched a bit of that one.
okay, so that's a standalone one,
Yeah.
and it is adapted from a book that's called Batman: The Doom That Came to Gotham. So there you go. It's already
Yes.
that one. That was a straight adaptation.
That one's a good one.
And
Okay.
Batman and
Okay.
the Battle of the Super Sons also a standalone, but not an adaptation. That's a entirely
Right.
unique. But Legion of Superheroes and Justice League Warworld are both in the Tomorrowverse, which I've never heard of, which I guess launched with Superman: Man of Tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. So
But
they
I
have the spines on the slip covers that match up.
okay,
Because like I said, I
okay.
own every single one of these movies. Part one of my major collection.
But like Batman: The Long Halloween Part 1 and Part 2 are also in the Tomorrowverse, which also feels like it doesn't fit now to me.
Right. Well, it's the same art style. I think is the only thing that really.
That first Batman Long Halloween movie is great. Like
Good.
top tier animated
Good.
movie. The second one sucks. That's the unfortunate. Didn't stick the landing. Here's the thing though, okay. So I haven't seen these ones. Thank you for reminding me. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna go watch them. Because they are good. They are fun to just like throw on and kind of like vibe with the superhero action and whatnot. But
Mhm.
you're right; they're not jumping off the page. You're talking about unionization. I think I don't know if we did or was planning on mentioning it, but I know that Warner Brothers Animation is looking to unionize. So there's another one where we support unions there. But yeah, I'm not.
We're like
No.
Stephen Amell. We're pro union, pro strike now.
That's such a funny poll, Jeremy. Thank you. Did you see the picture of him? I
Of
feel like they
course I
found the
did.
perfect
That's
picture.
why I'm only mentioning it because it was the interview. You know, we watched the
Right.
sound bite. You're like,
Yes.
okay, this guy, he's got an opinion here. And then you see everyone hating on him, and then you see him.
And then he appears with
I thought that was gonna be a private conversation. It's
right.
big enough context, and then you just see an image
It wasn't.
with
Wasn't it
a
at a convention? Why would it be a private Why would you think it was a
yeah, I don't
private
know. That was
conversation?
weird. And then you just see him on the picket line holding
Right.
a
But looking
sign.
absolutely miserable. Like he's
Yeah.
not. Like
Like
he's like I
I'm
don't
pretty
want to be
sure
here.
he's holding the sign, and then his other hand is in his pocket.
Yes.
So it's like, and then just a
He.
look of shame on his face.
Well, yeah, his publicist made him do it or whatever.
They're like,
But
you're not
like,
gonna get a job if you don't. You could, but he said he's pro union, so he just doesn't like the tactic, apparently, of striking.
yeah, I mean, like I get it. It's like it's a bit of a mob mentality, right? Where it's like you either are with us or you're against
Yeah,
us, right?
Arrow would be
So
for it, so that's why he's got a lot of flack.
yeah, he's. I don't agree with him. By the way, I don't agree that striking is a kind of like a one card only type play. I think it is a valid decision that the actors made.
Yeah, well, it's essentially just everything. You're just not supplying your employer with the goods. Like it's just not happening anymore.
Well,
There's a reason for
well
that.
exactly. You withhold labor
It's the
to
ultimate chess move.
exactly, but and then the flip side of that is the lockout, right? Which is to say, well, what you're demanding isn't fair, so we as the employers are going to lock you out so you can't work.
Yeah.
Which I always
If
felt
that
like
quote of the whole houses thing didn't come out, like who knows what? Like
well, apparently he's an idiot. But the sense of that
who?
whole Stephen Mel situation, which is that like
Oh yeah,
he was already kind of not the greatest dude.
Well, I was referring to how there was the leak of them saying like, "Well, just wait till they start losing their houses and they'll."
Oh yeah, well yeah, that would have that
Like that whole thing just blew a fire into this thing, like, and now it's like, how long has it been of this strike? Like,
Well, the writers have been on strike for over. It's got to be pushing 3 months now.
Like that's insane.
And the writers, I mean, we're a couple weeks in.
And they're trying to say that like they
actors.
whatever studio like saved a record amount of money with no production cost, but it's like no.
Like that, yeah. But
Like,
also no revenue.
You guys are so
right.
massive. You need to spend money to make money. Like it's
yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah. Well, it's always been that way in that sense because you need to get something you have to spend money to make something so that it can come out and make money, right?
So just saying you just didn't spend money isn't the win. You think?
Yeah, no, this is what I mean. I mean, like I don't really know how long, because really, as you said before, money talks, right? So I don't know. And by the way, hey, hello to Starfry in the chat, listening to us bemoan the state of the world. But at some point, it does come down to you have to hold out long enough so that they feel the pain. Because right now they're not feeling the pain because they still have movies coming out and they're still making that money. But it's a pretty long road. By the time the studios start feeling the pinch, it's going to be like next summer. You know what I mean? I guess maybe a little bit longer, like closer to Christmas, probably.
When will Superman Legacy actually get off the ground?
Well, it can't get it. You can't do. I mean, right? I mean,
I
don't know how
it's gonna be make the Batfleck movie.
Well, it's gonna be that on Twitter for sure forever. It's really crazy to be honest. That whole stuff. I know we talk about this every single time, but
it's a joke.
No, I know it's funny though.
But no, I'm saying it like I'm the comedian. It's all just
it's all bullshit ultimately. But I mean, so the studios aren't going to feel the pain for a little bit. Yeah, probably not till close to the end of the year because they've already bumped out some movies till next year. The actors and the writers, on the other hand, I don't think they have the ability to hold out that long. So they're going to have to come to the table again at some point. But like, it seems so stupid for them to do that because, and maybe stupid is the wrong word. Maybe it seems so unjust that they would have to do that because the demands that the studios are making seem so comically evil, right? Like it doesn't seem.
Now they have to. Now out of nowhere, they have to own up to that they've been doing that for so long, and then just give a huge amount of their massive share back.
Yes, they don't want to.
These types of people have massive egos and live a world, that is so unobtainable to any of us.
The average person, right?
Like,
yeah.
So
even if you won the lottery, you would have a fraction of the wealth that they have. Yeah. And the chances of winning the lottery, by the way, very low.
Have yacht. They literally have yacht like communities.
Yeah, they're like, oh, let's meet at St. Bart's this week with our yachts.
These are yachts.
Yes. Have you ever been on a super yacht, Jeremy?
No, I've seen.
I have. But they are unreal. Yeah. Like there's like movie theaters and bowling alleys and like it doesn't make sense. And again, we're not saying that they can't have yachts. Have a yacht, whatever. I don't give a shit. But
it's just you have so much money to pay people to build this thing
that made you money.
Alleys,
yes,
that can go on water.
Yeah, right.
It's like insane.
It's hard to even wrap. Exactly. It's like it's so unfathomable. It makes no sense, right? And this is why every time someone who's in a position to negotiate with unions, this is true for our government right now with our provincial government with the liquor workers and the studios. It just every single time you have to make a statement, you sound like the worst human being possible because when the average person, it sounds entirely reasonable that you would, in the case of the liquor workers, give them the same raises you gave yourself, or in the right, or
it's
in
so
this.
Funny how they're actually just like outside of the liquor mart, like just like half of them are on like beach chairs and like sitting.
But again, in the case of the
eyesore, like who is it for? Like they thought it's for the general public, is the people who have to see this. And
it's also the ones who are affected by it, right?
And because we can't purchase it now.
I can't buy my.
You go to the local beer store.
That's right, and the beer stores are doing very well right now. But
Love
and they give
wine though, I guess.
yeah, you could go to the local wine stores too.
Yeah,
I guess
like
I
at
don't
the
know.
Forks, they have that huge wine store there.
I feel like that store is not as good as it could be.
Really?
That's my opinion on that. Yeah, they don't do enough. Like
There's a lot
you're a
of
wine
bottles
store
there.
in one of the most like the busiest tourist place in the whole province, and
What do
their
they need to do?
hours are
There's a
weird.
bunch of.
They don't do any like wine tastings or anything that would be like interesting. You
I'm
know,
sure they have.
I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm giving them a short shrift. But uh, every time I go there to get the wine that I like, it's always out of stock. So I don't know. I'm a little bitter on it. But
Mm.
anyway, back to what I was saying. For the studios, every time they open their mouth and say, "Oh, things like wait till they lose their houses," or
Oof,
it's not sustainable
would-
for us to be able to pay writers the demands. It's like it just like it, and then someone immediately has a response like, "Oh, really? Then how did you spend all this money on this piece of shit movie?"
I
Right?
don't know
Or
what Bob
you know,
Iger was thinking. Like, there's a literal video interview, like, of him saying that what they're
right?
asking for is unreasonable. Like, he's literally put his face out there and neck out there,
I
said that, and now Ron Perlman makes this crazy, most intimidating,
yeah, that's right. The scariest
in
thing you've
your
ever
face
heard. Yeah.
video. Uh, and remember, Bob Iger was like the savior. He brought Tom
Right.
Holland and Sony and Spider Man back into the MCU. He retired off into the sunset after writing his book,
Yes. Left it with
and
another
then
Bob, and then that other
he
Bob
screwed
drove.
up.
Yeah.
He said something about animated movies and adults and all these things and Pixar movies, and then
Yeah.
he got the boot, and they brought Iger back, and then he's just taking the hit now. Like he is that
Yeah,
why
I
he
mean,
came back
I,
to
I, I don't think this is why he came back. Right. I mean, he came back to right the ship, but then at the same time, this all started to fall apart. Thing about Bob Iger is that he was a very good businessman,
he'd make the phone call and he'd make it happen.
but
He'd be on the right side of history with Spider
he
Man and the
he was
MCU.
not really overseeing Disney that was making a lot of original content, right? It was a lot of sequels, a lot of existing IP. That was his like calling card, and it continues to be because when he came back, he announced that they're going to make more Toy Story movies and more sequels to like. It's just like it's a lot of more of the same, right? Which I think it's pretty clear to tell that more of the same isn't working if you look at the box office numbers, right? Um, the stuff that is working is largely unique properties or at least unique takes on certain things. Although Sound of Freedom obviously being the exception to that, which is an insane movie made by insane people. But other than that,
Why are they insane?
well, I don't want to get into it. There's a lot about it that's not above board. We'll just put it that way. But we talk. Okay, so Barbie. Here's the thing: it's a double-edged sword because you're dealing with you want original IP and original concepts. I think Barbie brings that, but it's also based on a toy. So Super Mario Brothers, good movie, the highest grossing movie of the year so far. Although Barbie will likely surpass it, in probably by next weekend. Based on an existing IP, right? Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, although absolutely unique in its storytelling methodology and its visual look, all that kind of stuff, based on Spider-Man, right? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that's a sequel to a long-standing franchise. The Little Mermaid, a remake of an existing franchise, although I'm glad it's only at 5. I wish it didn't even crack the top 10, to be honest, because fuck that movie. I'm so sick. By the way, have you seen this drama about the whole live-action remake around Snow White?
A little bit.
And the actress who's playing her basically saying she doesn't really care for the property. She's never really liked the character and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And there's a lot of I think vitriol on that, as there is online about everything. But it ultimately comes down to: do you think that as an actor you have to like the character or like the property that you're been cast in, or is it just a job? Because my opinion is it's just a job as long as they're putting in the work.
I think it is just a job. It just you can become like a celebrity character to where like you could become a Tom Cruise or a Vin Diesel.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you almost have to or like The Rock. Like you become political to a certain degree, and like you're not that open and honest.
It behooves you to just walk the line and not
Yeah.
be yourself. I I guess, but I kind of like the genuine nature of.
Yeah,
I
like
can't.
they
I
just
guess what? Yeah.
I don't give a fuck basically.
Yeah. She's
It's
like
like
this shit was
then
racist, or he was like, and it,
it's not like it comes through in the performance, right? Because at the end
right,
of the day, it's a job. But then we like to think as fans that no, it should come through, the performance. Like look at Mark Hamill and Luke
right.
Skywalker, and like
But I.
the affinity with those two icons
But when he
essentially
got
were the
cast as
same.
Luke Skywalker for the first time, it was just a job. He didn't know what
Yeah,
Luke Skywalker was going to become. Right. In this
yeah,
case, it has baggage because it's a fairy tale story. But like, I don't know. I get it depends on the property. In this case, it doesn't bother me. Right.
no,
It would be like at the same time if I'm trying to think of a counter example where I might be on the opposite side of it, but maybe like if Scorsese decided he was going to make a Marvel movie, right? He was going to make an MCU movie, and it'd be like, wait a minute, like you spent how many interviews talking about how these are roller coasters, yada yada yada. But maybe he could talk me into convincing me, like I don't know, but um, I guess I can kind of see it. Disney people, no offense to Disney people, they can be a bit much, so maybe that's the the angle that's coming through there, but I don't know. All right, let's pull another story. By the way, Jeremy, I was going to mention this when we were talking about the animated movies, about trying to cheer you up. There is a Watchmen animated movie coming next year in development. Did you know about that?
I did, yeah.
Does that excite you at all, or are you kind of concerned now, given the
Uh,
nature of where we're at?
no, I mean, Watchmen's just kind of been. It's. I feel like it's just been so much explored over the last 10 years, I guess, or more, that it's cool just to get another iteration. And like, if it's an animated movie, there's a series. No, it's a movie.
Uh, it
Can't remember.
says that they're developing an animated film, R-rated animated film on the graphic
Right.
novel, but maybe it'll be a two-parter. It might be a two-parter.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do that.
So it's just always cool to get more visual, and like obviously animation is the closest you can get to the visual medium, original medium. You know what I mean?
Sure.
More so than live action, because it's obviously that's very, like, you can replicate it for sure, but it's very
Well, I
distinctly
mean, animation
different.
is literally it's almost the same medium because comics
It's the same image
are
but moving.
pictures, but
Yeah.
exactly. And so just add
Whereas
24 more of
movies,
those in a
it's
second, and
yeah.
you have a moving picture.
Where movies
Exactly.
is just it's real people, like, you know what I mean. So it just has that different feel, and that
Yeah.
feel is obviously so super epic, and I love that version. So, and then there's also an animated motion comic that's like
Yes, that
seven
was on
hours
the
long.
the Blu-ray. The what's it? The pirate one. It's about the pirates,
No,
right?
it's well, no, that is the Zack Snyder's Watchmen, like,
Right.
ultimate cut that
Adapted.
incorporates
Right.
the animated or the comic within the comic. And the character in that is voiced by Gerard Butler, which is cool because they worked on 300 together, obviously.
Right.
But what I'm talking about is just a standalone Warner Brothers DC
A
animated
motion
movie
comic.
release that was
Right.
just basically a motion comic that's 7 episodes, or 12 parts, or whatever it
That's so
is.
crazy. I find motion comics to be not good. I don't
I
like
think,
them.
yeah, well, I think
Like, that's my opinion. I don't know.
I think they are, like, specifically the Watcher one. I think is amazing because it's so cool to see the literal art and colors
Right, and then you
lit
hear
up,
people acting it, and that's
and then
fun. Yeah.
and then it moves or whatever. But it's no. The thing is that this is just one guy doing,
Oh, all the voices and stuff.
yeah, but like
No, that's weird.
voices, like, to like a kids or something in a group. Like, he's not trying, like, it doesn't sound like a woman when he's doing a woman,
Right, right.
but
Yeah,
it'll
no, I
raise
yeah.
his voice, or
Well,
like
yeah, that's
the
what
pitch.
people do if you do like an audiobook and it's it's not a full
Yeah.
cast, then it'll be one person doing a bunch of voices, which
Like,
can be fine.
I think the motion comic that they have should be casted like it's an animated movie. Like, give me celebrities to voice
Yeah.
the comedian and Rorschach, and then they just get in the booth and they do it like the animated series with
Yeah.
Kevin Conroy and all that stuff back in the day. Do it like that, or Jensen Ackles now. Like, don't just get one random guy to read the whole thing, all the word bubbles in weird voices, and then throw in some sound effects, which I think they do.
Mhm.
There's obviously some visual effects that they enhance to, like, make, like, water looks like it's running or something. things move. The
Yeah, it's
image
like
gets manipulated. It's
if you
pretty
remember that, like
cool.
sometimes when DC or Marvel puts out like an ad for like a new series of comics that they're doing, they'll do
Oh
like an
yeah,
animated
they'll
version.
do a quick little like ten
Yeah,
second clip of that, and it's like
yeah,
the most epic thing ever. Or like
exactly.
I've seen something someone said. Remember when The Rock teased Black Adam with the
Yes, right.
concept art and the
Yes,
music and the
and they would
lightning
like the lightning
effects,
was yeah, exactly.
and you could
Yep.
see like Kondak and like what it would look like in like this animated style.
Kondak,
But
what a,
yeah,
that's so
whatever
funny.
it's
Yeah,
called.
I know it's so funny though. It's
And
like
then
I just didn't think I just wasn't expecting you to throw the name of the country so perfectly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like my DC lore. I think
Yeah,
it's definitely like the
Kondak. But yeah, no,
coolest
but you
world
like
to
I feel
me.
like you put it like you said it with like a perfect accent, like too, like you just
Okay.
did.
Well,
It
thank
like
you.
you were from Kondak.
Thank you. Well, anyways, but yeah, like it's just funny how like the movie ended up being so ass, but like that 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 little thing like hyped it up a little bit.
By the way,
So
what a roller coaster that movie's been on from at
yeah.
least a
Then there's a
Twitterverse
YouTube
standpoint.
video where he's on Kevin Hart's podcast, and like
Right.
the whole clip that Kevin Hart released is like,
Why does Kevin
The
Hart
Rock,
need a
The
podcast? Can we
Rock
be honest?
explains, The Rock explains what went wrong with Black Adam or something. Like it's just so
Yes.
funny that we need to like hear
Well, he said that
people's.
it was a studio thing. Of course, it was a
Yeah, well,
studio thing.
everyone
You know.
everyone lives in their own realities, and obviously
Sure.
there's going to be truth lines throughout. But like, do we really need to hear it from him? Like, he was definitely wanting to center
Yes.
himself,
Yes.
his persona,
100%.
a little too much in the DC. It wasn't like he was just going to be in his cool corner having fun. Like he
No, he
wanted
wanted
to,
to be
yeah,
the guy,
yeah,
right? It was him. It was gonna be him and Cavill, and he was gonna use Henry Cavill as a
yeah,
stepping stone to do that. By the
yeah.
way, it's like everyone's like, "Oh, he had it right. He was gonna bring it back, and it was gonna be all good and all
Well,
that kind of
that's
stuff." It's like,
why
no,
I think it's
no,
lame when people are like, "Well, yeah, you didn't show up to Black Adam, so you don't, that's why they booted Henry Cavill after they
no. It
said he
was
could
a
come back."
lame stunt to get people in the
Yeah,
into the
it's
seats.
like,
Come
but
on,
but exactly, and I saw that. Even though I would prefer Henry Cavill to continue, I'm not going to
sure,
go watch Black Adam just for that. It's so lame. Like, especially for a scene that does like it just looks
filmed
like
on a blue screen.
cosplay.
Yeah,
Yeah, cosplay. They're not even in the same room as one another. Like they're not tangibly like together.
there's a lot of that happening now. There's every once in a while I'll be watching a show or a movie, and the way that they cut it, it's like this is really
That's
weird. They're cutting
yeah.
back and forth really weird, and then all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, these people have never been in the same fucking room together.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
TV
so
isn't doing it
fucking
for me
weird.
these days, other than like The Last of Us. You know what I mean? Like I'll
Well,
watch that
the
HBO.
best of the best, but I
Chernobyl
mean
before that,
that's why you're not.
obviously.
You should be watching um, House of the Dragon. That shit was great the first season. Okay, hey, how about this? Can I get you excited? I know you're into movies. Charles Roven says that they are looking to do an Uncharted sequel, saying, "quote The fans really liked the movie, and people who didn't know anything about the game really liked the movie." Unquote.
Sure.
Bullshit. I think
Well,
is
I
what
mean,
that is.
I think it made like 400 million or something like that. Like
Is
it's
that? Let's see here. Uncharted. I'll look this up right now. But I'm sorry. I mean, that movie sucks.
it overperformed the box office. That is what everyone has kind of realized, and Tom Holland is happily surprised.
Sure.
Because he tried to get out ahead of it and say that he didn't really know. He took the wrong approach
Yeah,
to
so it
to
had
making the game.
120 million, 120,000, imagine, $120 million budget, production budget, and it grossed 400 million worldwide, 400.6 million worldwide.
So
So
they spun it as a W. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
now it's up to them to kind of take all the critiques, look at that conversation around that, and try to set something up good, good for the sequel. Because like we weren't that harsh on it. Like there were
no,
elements
you're
for
right.
sure.
I just feel like that the framing of it, like, hey, people really liked it. It's like, is that
Well,
really
it just really wasn't like
true?
it wasn't, to quote Scorsese. It just wasn't like the cinema version of
Right. No.
Uncharted. Like,
Right,
you know what
because
I
we already
mean?
have the games that do
Yeah.
most of that already,
It just seems
right?
like a cheap copy that, takes some liberties, but a lot of familiar things, and has really cool, famous actors.
Yeah.
And they tried.
But they didn't
Uh,
like
but it's not like
yeah.
a single director's vision. You know what I mean? Like doing something fun in a genre or something new with Like, there's no like frames of that movie that you see people tweet about that are like,
I can't.
that look good or like that you remember. There's, you know what I mean? You just remember.
I
You just it
I
looks like
do remember parts of that movie.
it's like an SNL skit with Tom Holland just like swinging from ropes or whatever. Like, it's not
the
like
no, Jeremy. What does stand out to me is that time when and Antonio Banderas' neck is slit. Sorry, spoilers for
right.
this movie,
They
and
can't
no
show
blood
the
comes out.
yeah.
It's the funniest thing. And also, why is he killed halfway through that movie? It doesn't like
And
he's like
Tom Holland
really
is
cool, badass villain.
too young.
Yes, he's too young, or
And
at least
but which is
he looks too
fine
young.
if the time period, if they
Yeah,
maintain the Sam, the brother thing, like that
sure.
whole stuff. But no, they threw him in a tux with an earpiece undercover at a cocktail party.
Yeah, they jumped to Uncharted 3, like
Yeah.
basically right away.
It's like you
And
stick out like a sore thumb, which is a joke that they made, that Mark Wahlberg made. Like, and that was what we gave the movie props, was Mark
it
Wahlberg's
was pretty
comedic
funny.
ability,
Yeah.
and it tied, you know, into the Sully that we knew a little bit. Like, it just made us
Kind of,
laugh
but
in the
also
theater.
like not really. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
but
it's like
well,
yeah.
no, it didn't. But what I'm saying is, it made us laugh when we watched it.
Yes, there's some funny lines. This is true. Like I said, it's not a. I think we said at the time it wasn't terrible, but it missed the mark to really capture us as who were big fans of the franchise. Yeah. So I'm willing to let them try again, but I don't have any faith that it'll be any better. Like all we talk about all the time is how studios literally never learn any of the real lessons from these movies.
That was a quote that came up by an actor recently.
Yes, I just thinking about that too.
Because like the Barbie movie, like they're talking about making all these toy or product IP.
I don't know if it was Simu Liu, but Simu Liu. I don't. It wasn't. But I mean, like, it was someone tangential. I feel like to the project. Anyway, they did say that. Yeah, they're like, oh, they think that the success of Barbie means we should make more movies based on toys, but that's really not what it is. You should. Yeah.
They started a whole new like IP committee at their company where they
right.
have people in charge of Nerf and.
Imagine, Jeremy, a like, Nerf movie. I know they've already made jokes about how they want to do like a Magic 8-Ball horror movie, which actually doesn't sound so bad. But like, what are you gonna do? Uno? No, come on. I mean, I think the best part about Barbie was that it is super fucking weird. It is so weird and really funny, and has a. Maybe, and I said this in our, by the way, we did a travel log for this. You can find it if you subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/TowerBabblecast. We did a full travel log of it, and we give our thoughts about Barbie and Oppenheimer and Regina while we were there. But we talked about this. It's like, it has a message. A movie number one at the box office has no message is the Super Mario Brothers movie. It has nothing to say. It's just a romp in the Mushroom Kingdom, and that's fine. But Barbie does have something to say. Maybe too much. It probably bites off more than it can chew. It has a lot of like, it's juggling all these kind of concepts at the same time. But it's and as that quote from that actor that we can't think of says, "Don't make more movies about toys. Make more movies about women." And that's a big theme of it. But like, there's a actual filmmaker behind the camera for Barbie and behind the pen too, because her and her husband wrote it, and it's really smart and it's really edgy and it's bold, and like Transformers it's funny because another what else can you base off toys? Transformers was successful. The first trilogy was because it was also bold. They didn't cut corners to make Michael Bay didn't cut corners to make the first Transformers movie, right? So, and that's what excited people. It wasn't just about, although for us maybe more so, was about the transforming trucks, which was really cool. But and we were the perfect age for that, teenagers. But
the latest one is the least like well performing one.
I know, which is a shame because apparently everyone who's seen it says it's good, and I haven't seen it yet, which I'm part of the problem, I guess.
Well, and the post-credit scene ties it to another universe.
Yeah, the G.I. Joe movies. Is that
which is
the rumor?
Spoiler, I guess, but it's like so over the top. It's like whatever, dude.
Do you remember the G.I. Joe movies?
No,
No.
We missed the boat on that, I think.
Well, I don't know. I saw them. I just don't remember them, and I don't remember them being good at all. So Wasn't Jason? Was it who was in those
Well, it was
movies?
a
It's
cartoon, right? We didn't have. I didn't. At least I didn't watch it.
oh, we did. I never watched the cartoon growing up. I have seen episodes of it. There was
Even
at one point
Transformers, I didn't really watch.
I went back. That was I chose to go back and like
Yeah,
seek Transformer stuff out,
But
but
later,
exactly. And then with GI Joe, I remember watching like I stumbled across. I was really bored and I was on my TV and I was. Have you ever gone to just like what's live on YouTube right now? Have you ever done that?
never.
And it's just random stuff. But one of the channels was just playing episodes of GI Joe over and over and over again. So I just like put that on, and it's not very good. It's probably to be fair, it's probably about as good as the original Transformers were, but I didn't have the attachment to it, so I couldn't really see it through that lens. It's very silly, and the like blatant like nobody can kill each other type stuff. So like no one gets hit with any laser blasts, and every time a vehicle explodes, everyone jumps out before it. It's just like it really doesn't feel like it has any stakes. So I don't know what about the GI Joe specifically people will latch onto, but didn't we just talk about how like we feel like the 80s nostalgia boat sailed? We're into the 90s now.
Well, no, someone said that because they canceled the um was it like
Oh,
Masters of the
the
Universe
Master
show or
Universe show
something?
on Netflix, right?
Yeah,
Yes, that's right.
but it was like filmed or maybe they were done. I don't
I
know.
think they had spent several million
Yeah.
dollars in development already, and then they canceled it. Which is, to be honest, I actually respect a studio that says we're gonna, despite having spent all this money, we're going to cancel it because I think the sunk cost fallacy is.
They just
fair.
saw the conversation around Thor: Love and Thunder and like, okay, I'm
out. This isn't working. Lates. Yeah, fair enough.
Even though that movie made tons of money, but that must be because of Ragnarok.
Well, I guess speaking of 80s nostalgia, we can talk about Ninja Turtles here. So I saw the new TMNT, right? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem animated movie, very similar to the animation style of the Spider-Verse movies, with that same kind of. Sorry, what? Oh, yeah, Puss in Boots, the new Puss in Boots, which apparently is great. People say. I haven't seen.
Antonio Banderas.
Jeremy,
Again,
I have a soft spot for Antonio Banderas. I really like Antonio Banderas as an actor. Zorro.
Well,
Zorro.
He has one of the best meme gifs of all time.
Oh, which one?
Where he like kind of like kisses his like fingers like and like looks up like.
Oh yes. And just like
like it's perfect.
I don't know how you can't not like Antonio Banderas. He just feels like he just seems like a very likable dude. Anyway, he's not in TMNT, but Jeremy, do you have what's your history? Did you have an attachment to the Ninja Turtles? It feels like everyone had at some point. Some people stick with it, others don't.
For me, it was the original movie.
Oh yeah, great movie, absolutely great.
I just thought like, wow, like that is what Hollywood, the magic of movie making.
Right, you truly believe those were turtles.
Yeah, like in like when people talk about like Star Wars and like the costumes, all that like made sense to them and stuff. Like for me, it was like my first like viewing of that, like feeling of that was Ninja Turtles.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. It's a great movie. It's like, and it's slower than you would imagine. It's funny. They really nail it, right? The second movie's not as good, but this movie really, I guess like there was those Michael Bay produced movies that kind of came and went.
2 of them, yeah, and they made bank. They just never made a third. But apparently the production was like hell for like the voice actors or the
really
the mocap people.
Yeah. Those, have you seen the behind the scenes footage like of them wearing those like big shells on their back?
So funny.
It is really funny. Yes, it's really funny. But and those movies I watch them. They're fine. They do that thing that like Transformers 2 does, which is like has no internal consistency or logical consistency. So you'll be like in the forest and then you'll go into a sewer grate and then appear in the middle of downtown Manhattan, and it's like how do they get there? What is it's very confusing. Yeah, 100%.
I don't know why. I mean, going down an avalanche.
the first Ninja Turtles movie also takes place in the forest, though. They go to that like house and like meditate and stuff. Remember? But that's all to say that I have I was a big Ninja Turtles fan. I think every kid has. It's like the perfect brand to attract young boys. Like it's like what do you mean? They're teenagers. They're ninjas. They're mutants. They love pizza. Like what else? Like what else is there to do? Like that's all you need to know,
And
right?
the guy who's playing Jack Reacher right now, or Hawk in
Yes,
Titans.
yes. He was one of
he's had kind of
Donnie.
like no, he's Raphael. I'm pretty sure.
Was Raffi, right? Oh, that's
Which
so
is
weird.
such a like just like a missed opportunity to capitalize on that guy's like rising stardom.
Well, yeah, I mean, by like many years. I mean, he didn't. Yeah. He's only reaching those levels now.
Yeah.
And those movies were what, like 8 years ago or more? I want to say.
Yes, but like you couldn't just like do a third one. Like they could have like tried to do a third one at some point. Like they're all both of them are profitable. Pretty sure.
Yeah, and I guess I understand like trying to do the live action thing again now that like it's like graphics caught up. You know, where you can have like the CG look can actually work.
James Cameron style.
Exactly, but for whatever reason they didn't stick in the zeitgeist. People don't. I don't think they. I think if you ask people about Ninja Turtles, I don't even think most people would even remember those movies, to be honest. But I really had a period in time. In fact, it goes back to the beginning of this podcast. If you go to our website towerbabble.ca and you look at there used to be a blog section, if I recall correctly, and I don't know where exactly that sits anymore. It's in there somewhere. But if you can find it on the website and go back far enough, there are individual episode reviews of Ninja Turtles shows from that time frame about I don't know, it was a Nickelodeon show for about 10 years ago. And that show's awesome, like so good. And I was like, okay, really animated is the secret for this, because the talking aliens and the weird mutants and all that stuff kind of works better in animation. And that was really solidified for me in this movie because they absolutely nail the look of the turtles. They all have unique look, which I think is because was kind of introduced by that Michael Bay stuff. They all kind of have different shapes and sizes, and it was more than just which color headband they were wearing, right? But so they bring that forward, and I think that's helpful. But they absolutely nail the teenage element, which has always been kind of missing. Like when you picture the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what age do you feel like you associate them with? Like for me, it's probably like 17, 18 years old, give or take. And that is like, you're basically an adult at that point. You know, like to call them Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at that point is like they could be drinking beer if they were in Canada. So that has always been a bit of a like dissonance for me. But this movie, and they cast actual teenagers to play the turtles, and it totally works. Now, admittedly, I don't fully vibe with them because I'm not a teenager in the year 2023. And I don't really truly understand teenagers because there's really no way to understand. Even as a teenager, I didn't understand teenagers. So there is a little bit of a layer there of kind of like, I understand that these are teenagers, but that it gives it a sense of authenticity because though I don't always understand everything, I know that that's something a teenager would do or something a teenager would say. It feels authentic in that sense. And I think that's really cool. Like they start using language they used a word that I didn't know existed until like 2 weeks ago. That's like a new slang word for like if you got game with the chicks, you got Riz. And I don't know if you've heard this word before, Jeremy, but they use that word in the movie, and I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I only found out about that word the other day because I heard it on some random podcast. I just felt like that was like a fun revelation for me. And then on top of that, the visual style is really, really cool. They really nail that with this. Again, it is a grittier look to the animation style, but the animation style really lets them be creative. And then it really draws out that comic book feel, which again, based originally on comics, but you don't really feel that as much, I feel like, with the TMNT stuff from recently. So you get that piece, which I think is cool. And then you get a really stellar voice cast. And with the villain played by Ice Cube, Jeremy. Ice Cube plays the villain, Superfly, and he's really, really, really good. Really nails the tone. You get a bunch of these other mutants. You get Mondo Gecko, played by Paul Rudd, who's really good. You get all this big cast. They're not all super involved, but then it all comes together because the soundtrack, Jeremy. So the score is done by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So if that doesn't excite you, I don't know what will. Famous for social media, but a great score, obviously.
They did the Watchmen show as well.
Right, exactly. And that their music is driving. It's synthy. It fucking rocks, dude. And then you layer on top the needle drops, which are all 80s hip hop, 90s hip hop. There's Wu-Tang tracks in there. There's Tribe tracks in there. And they're not necessarily deep cut tracks necessarily, but they're really nail this badass tone, which is there's a bit of a dissonance between teenagers in the modern day, which I don't fully understand, but cool that's what they're doing. It's a true origin story. And then music from when I was a kid, which is which is a bit weird, but I mean, Seth Rogen is going to bring his own style, and I think he totally nails that too. So they're making a second one. There's going to be a TV show. It's not making enough money. You guys need to go out there. You listeners need to go out there and go see it. So that's my my one ask is please help this movie succeed. It's very good. I want to see it again. That's how good I think it is. So huge, 2 huge thumbs up for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. Did I convince you, Jeremy? Are you going to go see this movie?
Probably not.
You can wait till. Are you going to watch it when it comes to VOD at least?
I don't know.
Oh, Jeremy, you're killing me.
I'm gonna watch Oppenheimer for sure. That's all I really.
That's all that matters, really. Okay, so before we wrap up here, Jeremy, do you have any comment on the Wonder Woman Gal Gadot situation?
What do you mean?
Well, it sounds like a lot of hearsay.
That it was going to be a reboot, and then now it's not, and then
maybe
it is.
It's well, that's what I mean. It's very confusing. They haven't cleared it up, right? I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and James Gunn just tweets about Blue Beetle and replies to people talking about porn stars being cast as Lex Luthor,
which is so stupid.
But he'll reply to that, but won't give clarity on
the Wonder Woman situation.
And then Variety is reporting on it, and then there's community notes saying inside sources say that it is not confirmed to be an ongoing. It's what? How do you even?
Right, I don't know
what's going on here.
This is my own. I will continue to repeat this over and over again. I truly believe for this to work, that they have to do the full reboot.
Not happening.
Every major character needs to get a reboot. Peacemaker, I don't consider to be a major character, and it's a TV show spinoff anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
He's a DLC character in the new Mortal Kombat game.
That is true, and that is pretty cool.
Owned by Warner Brothers.
Yeah, but I mean that's why. So that explains it. But and also, I mean, so some of those DLC characters are pretty cool to be TBH. But I just think it's a mistake to attach your wagon to what has been this absolutely chaotic mess, right? You can take any side of that, but I think we can all agree that it has been messy. And if you really want to start fresh, Mr. Gunn, do yourself a favor and just cut it loose and do what you said you were going to do originally and start fresh. That's the only way it's going to work. So, until we get some clarity here. I mean, I like Gal Gadot, I do, but I'm sure there's another actress who can play Wonder Woman. I'm positive, right? So I don't know. It's a fucking mess. But and David Ayer actually chimed in on this recently, and famous for, of course, the first Suicide Squad movie, which was edited to shreds without his consent, which we all know. And there's a whole campaign to release the Ayer cut, and he stepped on in it a little bit this last week on Twitter. But he did say about James Gunn specifically that he believes that he deserves the right to launch his universe without the baggage of past projects. And I think that's all I've been saying since the beginning, which is like, give him a chance to try it, but like the more baggage he takes with him, the harder it's going to be. So that's I don't know. Do you agree with that, or where do you fall?
Well, yeah, 100%. Just now we have to determine, well, what is the baggage? And when he says some things that work, some things that don't, it's like you said, it needs to be full reboot. It's kind of tough when you keep this, you keep that, and you say, well, it's not a major character, this or that. Well, it's just rough. So I would have rather just, yeah, everyone is recast, just start fresh. But I don't think that's what's happening, which is why it's so easy to kind of target and not be as excited.
Yeah, and it is weird because you're right. He has been so vocal about either confirming or shooting down rumors on Twitter, and for this one, oddly quiet, right? And
Yeah, and like such a major character part of the Trinity.
yes,
So then you're gonna have a new. How do you have a new Trinity then? How do you?
it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense, Jeremy.
Yeah.
It doesn't. How do you introduce a new Superman and Lois and a new Batman and all these things, and then keep one? It doesn't work.
We'll have to just leave
recast
it there and
yeah.
And hopefully
we've repeated this over and over again. It doesn't. That's just what it is. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this week's show. Not a ton of news, to be honest. Like the only things we didn't really cover here were like Disney Plus is introducing password sharing, or cracking down on password sharing, which is like, of course they are, because everything sucks now. And you're right about Jeremy. Some VFX workers looking to unionize at Marvel, which I think is great because they've been notoriously abused. Some of that stuff I feel like we could have got maybe into more detail, and the Emmys being delayed, which is again not surprising. But again, with the industry and the turmoil that it is, there's just not a lot of like exciting stories to talk about. So that being said, we have brand new content coming that's Star Wars related that doesn't have any of that baggage associated with it, I hope. Starting next week, 2-episode premiere. Next Wednesday, Disney Plus, Ahsoka. If you have not been doing your back-end research, I encourage you to go watch the last couple seasons of Clone Wars. There's a lot of, in fact, in the Discord, I'm pretty sure if you are a Patreon subscriber, you are in our Discord because of that. Patreon.com/TowerBabblecast. There was, I can't remember who posted it now, but someone posted in there about a watch list of things to watch for Ahsoka. I would recommend poking in there and taking that on. You don't have to necessarily see everything, to be honest. There's a lot, but there's some gigs. I would say do yourself, maybe watch some Rebels, maybe watch a little bit of Clone Wars, go back and watch a couple episodes of Mando, and you'll be set. Again, this is exciting stuff. It's looking like it's going to be good. Not to get anyone's hopes up too high, but I am excited. So again, we'll be covering that week to week. Although the second week is going to be a little complicated. We'll get to that in the actual episode. But until then, look for more TOB content very soon, right around the corner, and some more small screen Star Wars content right around the corner. And we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.